Apparently we are live now, if I'm not mistaken. There we go. Let me know when you can see me, yeah? That'd be great if you could please do that. Actually, hang on. I gotta get my lights on. There we go. Bit dark. Yay, awesome. Sick. Should be good now, I hope. Once I know that I'm visible on your screens, we'll get started. Yeah? Assuming there is audio through the microphone, there is. We're testing, we're good. Yeah. This is $6 sign reviews live stream. That's cool. Are we good? Yeah? Hello. Can you guys see me? I just figure it's good to just confirm, actually, before we get into the proceedings, that we're visible on the screen. Because sometimes I say we're live and then I get confused, or then the live stream doesn't start. Hello? Am I visible on your end? Like, this isn't a joke. I literally don't know if you guys can see me or not. This isn't like a meme. Hi, David. Welcome to the live stream. Hopefully you're well. I feel like I'm being messed with a little bit. Not by you guys, but by life itself. Hey, I'm gonna go onto my own YouTube. I'm gonna see if I am live, if it is visible. Because I'm tripping out. Can I see me? It says that I'm live. How do my vocals sound? Are they cursed? Like, how does it actually look for you guys? Like, it's Auto 360, Advanced. Do you ever realize how much we are just like monkeys? We just look like monkeys looking at their tools. Okay, thank you, Jacob. I appreciate that. We can now begin the live stream. Okay, let's do this. Boop. Sup, Shredders? My name is Logan, aka Spiderhands, and welcome to an SB live streams where today we're going to be checking out your song requests. It's number 19 of those today, live on air. And if we switch over to here, if I make that smaller so that I can see it, Yeah, we've got it on the screen. I have been looking at Toby Fox's Undertale. I don't know if you guys have played Undertale. Undertale is an amazing game. Like, so good. If you haven't played Undertale, I would recommend playing Undertale. It's an amazing game. I don't know if it's Undertale. Yeah, no, it's saying it. That's good. So I haven't opened up the requests yet, simply because I wanted to make sure that the queue was open. So if you're watching, the queue is now open. I've just opened it on Ko-fi. It hasn't been up until now. I want to be a little bit more specific about my track feedback today. I think that sometimes when I get feedback, I'm aware that it can be a little bit generic sounding. And so I think that it could be really good for me to maybe sort of talk about a few things that stood out for me, as opposed to saying more rounded things. That way, I feel like it'll show that I'm paying attention, but also it's probably also going to ironically make things a little bit more interesting and less conflated, you know. Zach, you're on the last chapter of Deltarune, really enjoying it. I'm glad you're enjoying it, man. That's fantastic. That's awesome. That's good to hear. Is that a... How does that look? It doesn't look that bad at 200, eh? Here we go. What if I put that down a little bit? Can I go here? I can. And then I go up like this. And then that. Dun, dun, dun. And the text is a bit bigger. So we can kind of get away with 200, I think. If I go... That won't let me grab it, will it? Oh, it will. There we go. So who is your favorite Deltarune character? Zach? I really like Ralsei. I think that they're awesome. Now, I am only on chapter 3, though. So I'm not sure what's going to happen in future, but the cooking games and stuff have been fun so far. I've enjoyed those parts of chapter 3. I'm not sure where it goes. Knowing Toby Fox, there'll be some wild stuff that occurs, but we'll find out over time. But yeah, amazing music in those games. Toby Fox, it's incredible to think that he was able to do it all himself. Or like most of it himself, not all of it. And for a guy in his mid-20s to be able to make an entire game like that, as well as compose everything, even if it's just a 6 or 7 hour game, is just incredibly, incredibly impressive. So, I suppose what else can we talk about? I've decided to stick with top 5s. There'll still be Jacob's album review at the end of the month. But I want to do top 5s of musicians because I had to think about it over the week, and I think it'd be good for me to have an excuse to review a lot of maybe older musicians that I haven't had the chance to really sort of focus on. I think it'd be cool to listen to some Britney Spears tomorrow. I think next week it could be cool to do some BTS or something like that. Although I'm thinking next week. No, next week isn't the... It's the second to last. So we'll probably do Britney Spears tomorrow. And then we'll do BTS the week after. Primarily because I'm very curious about why they are so beloved. You know? So I think those will be the next 2 weekend live streams. And we'll do one of these next week as well. That'd be kind of dope. You guys having a great weekend? Been having fun? Hopefully you have. You know. We'll have a look at some music news anyways. See what's going on in the world. So, music news. Um, Not sure if I necessarily vibe with the website design of having like the follow us part as like a solid third of the screen. Chris Brown getting himself in trouble again. Classic Chris Brown. Tom Morello. Well, just before we get into a request, because I think we have a request from Jacob. Thank you to that, Jacob. Tom Morello and Rage Against the Machine are kind of tricky about their guitar tabs. So if you're trying to find guitar tabs for like Rage Against the Machine's music, they typically copyright block it on websites like ultimateguitar.com. So it can be worthwhile. I think there's like one unofficial tab that someone's written out completely in old school guitar tablature. So maybe just be aware of that. That Rage Against the Machine are one of the few bands that's difficult to find tabs for. That was just something that triggered in me whilst I was looking at that. And it's crazy because Killing in the Name of is such a phenomenally like popular song. There is nothing like having people singing "Fuck You, I Won't Do What You Tell Me" out their lungs, screaming that on their lungs when they're drunk on New Year's Eve. Like, people love singing along to that song on New Year's Eve when you're in a covers band. I remember doing that a few years ago. It's amazing how people can come together just to sort of scream that, because it's just that kind of shared kind of feeling towards that. Just before we do the track from Jacob, any thoughts on that AI band Velvet Sundown? Yeah, I do. I want to show you guys this. Not to show too much of it, but they're literally saying here the Velvet Sundown Dust and Silence full AI album, promoted or uploaded through the Luke Host music group. I do genuinely think that they are an AI band who is trying to capitalize on the controversy, quote unquote, you know? I think there'll be more bands that try and get away with this. I think the reason they've chosen this specific type of music is because I think there are older generations who are less aware of what AI is and will look at music like this, enjoy it, because they won't necessarily be able to hear that it's AI. And then when they're told it's AI, go, oh, it sounded good though, so AI music's fine. And there'll be like literally a subset or a part of the population that is comfortable with the concept. Because I think that a lot of record labels, especially those that, as I understand it, are trying to cozy up to AI companies, are mindful of the fact that there is money to be made, and it's a lot cheaper to have AI musicians than actual musicians. And so they're looking at ways to monetize that. So I think this is a social experiment, and I think that it's been incredibly successful for the people involved. But I also think it's disingenuous, and it's just a shame that they can't be open about that they have to lie in their rebuttals and stuff like that about the existence of it. So those are my thoughts. I think it's getting close to the point where it's semi-believable, and I appreciate there's a lot more variety instrumentally within these tracks, because I've had to listen through a little bit of it. But I also think that it's kind of, I just wish people could be open about it. It's okay to need to have someone help you with music. Although I don't like the way that they took people's back catalogs without permission for training purposes. I think the way that it was implemented was gross. I have issues with the copyright implications. I just think it could have been done a hell of a lot more ethically, and it wasn't. And I just think it's just a really terrible start. So yeah. But yeah, I don't want to be sort of like, there's already a lot of discourse about AI music, and there's a lot of negativity around it, and I completely understand why that is. My voice on it isn't necessarily going to help anyone. But I do think patently the Velvet Sundown are an AI group, even though they say they're not. And it's part of it's just simply because the quality of the vocal performance changes between takes, like between songs. Completely different vocal texture and timbre. They don't match. They don't match. It's very different. It's clearly AI music, but for people who, especially those who are single oriented, they'll probably just find that story they like, only listen. That's good. I like that they're saying that they're AI. I think that they should have done that in the first place. I think for an AI artist to be able to pull in, I think that was honestly the plan. That was probably the plan, was to lie about it and then just come out into the open and say it, because now they'll have a very small percentage of those who listen to their music like it. And those same people may or may not understand how it was made, but they'll continue listening now because of the fact. And so everyone who has been having a hiss and a roar about it, was justified because it's good to talk about this stuff. Those who told people not to support it have inadvertently helped them to find success. So yeah, we're just going to continue, move forward. What have we got? We've got a track from, who sent stuff through? Yeah, Jacob Good. Let's do it. Yeah, they'll get royalties. I think there is an issue with the royalty thing, because if they're using learning models that have used stuff from other musicians, I think there's a bit of an ethical thing there, but it's just also so hard to prove who's owed what. But I also don't think they wrote the music. But then you can also buy beats from people, and if you, for instance, do vocals on top of a beat that you haven't made, it's tricky. There's a lot of nuance to it. I've wanted to make a video on AI music, but I've gone on tangents and sort of like rants about it, and I didn't think they were very good videos, so I haven't released them. I will actually probably have to script a video, actually put effort into a video. But we'll see how we go. But they will probably get paid for it. They will. So this is from Jacob Good. We're going to do Jacob's song now. PJ Harvey, Words That Maketh Murder. Great anti-war song. The album took her 10 years to write from concept to release and won lots of awards. She wrote and performed it like war poetry, and it shows how dire and ironic wars really are. Let's do it. Thank you, Jacob. Get the art up on the screen there. The lyrics as well. Really unusual vocal style. Like, technically it's really proficient, and I like the melodies and the use of the head voice occasionally. It'll just be interesting to hear how the rest of it goes within context.
Words that make good murder. These are the 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 words that make good murder.
Great layering of the male vocals on the sides here to develop it.
Climbing behind a fierce concern. I seen flies swarming everyone. Soldiers felt like lumps of meat. And these are the words of these that linger in the stomach. Flies swarming everyone over the whole summit peak. Flesh quivering in the heat. This was something else again. Our fear could not explain the words that made the words that made murder.
What if I take my problem to the United Nations?
What if I take my problem to the United Nations? What if I take my problem to the United Nations?
Not really sure if it'll do a lot, to be honest.
What if I take my problem to the United Nations? What if I take my problem to the United Nations? What if I take my problem to the United Nations?
What if I take my problem to the United Nations?
What if I take my problem to the United Nations?
So that was The Words That Maketh Murder by PJ Harvey off of the Let England Shake album. This was a very sort of surreal track. Just wonderfully dark, haunting lyrics. They are. I mean, the imagery of the flies over the flesh and everything like that. You know, it's talking, from what I understand, about a soldier's perspective, having seen all these terrible things, and then going to the United Nations about the problems that we have there, despite the fact that we may have been a part of it. You know, specifically, I've seen and done things I want to forget, as if the United Nations is going to be able to fix it. And I'm not having a go at the United Nations. It's just a fact that arguably the nations aren't very united at the moment. I think it's sort of a comment on the delicate sort of like way that the world works there. It's a comment on how disgusting war is itself. And the words that maketh murder. The imagery there, despite the fact that people end up doing it anyways. Because we apparently love to... We just got a few men at the top or a few people at the top that have an ego trip, and then suddenly the entire world is set aflame. Part of what I think is done really well is just how... Thank you, Jacob. I appreciate that. I think that one of the things that works well with this track is that you've got such a cheery disposition to it, and it kind of softens the intensity of some of the words here. So I think there'll be people that kind of nod their head and kind of vibe along to it, despite how gruesome the stuff it's illustrating is. And it kind of suggests to me that it's aware of needing to sort of sweeten a lot of the messaging with this kind of stuff to be able to be more palatable for the listeners. Kind of like propaganda, telling people that war is worthwhile because of reasons that are psychologically more primed for those people, as if, you know, you say the right words and you'll be able to lead people into battle. I kind of equate the measure with the music to that. I think just also it was the use of the interesting vocal style by the vocalist, you know, the lady vocalist there by herself, with the claps and percussion behind it and everything like that. And then you have the chanting, you know, these words maketh murder, as if we become more and more sort of self-aware of what we're discussing there. Until we get to a point where we kind of can't handle it anymore and we just want to make it the United Nations problem. And it's just the kind of cheery, kind of proper way of exposing it that never becomes too minor or dire. And then murder, and it's got kind of like a bluesy kind of feel to it, even with the brass and stuff like that. Almost we're doing like we've got the blues about the war, you know, the battle that is going on. And I think the use of sort of rhythm figures with the 8th and 16th, alongside the gentle development of the track as we go through it, adding those vocal layers. Because if we compare the start, I mean, like you've got the strummed guitars on the side that typically revolve around those major chords, but it's the combination of those different acoustic elements as we sort of pull it up. And we've got those kind of ghostly, kind of wistful melodies on the side there that are either sort of like guitar or sort of vocal oriented or something else there. And it's just a very kind of spooky sounding track when you take all of that into consideration. And just that repetition of that "what if I take my problem to the United Nations" thing is almost like the music developed until that point. And then we're just kind of left without a resolution there. And we kind of resolve on like a 9th or something like that. A bit of a glow as the reverb tails fade away. And it's just a really pretty song, again, that I think sort of is juxtaposed by what it's actually talking to you about. So I think it's a very intelligent, self-aware track that has a really sort of unique feel and approach to it. And I think that a lot of people could learn from the way this is written. I dig it. Thank you to Jacob for putting this track forward. This track from PJ Harvey titled "The Words That Maketh Murder." You know, it's feisty stuff. You know, you're welcome. You're welcome, Jacob. I think now more than ever, with all the crazy stuff that's going on in the world, it's really important to be able to have music like this heard to remind us of what's come before, especially in the 2000s. There was just so much crazy stuff within the 2000s with like the terrorist stuff going on. Not that it wasn't happening beforehand, but I remember when September 11 happened, I was like 10 years old. And I remember waking up in the morning in my house and just seeing the towers collapsing on television. It was just brutal, man. And just so much stuff came out of that, eh? She was in a hotel room near the... Yeah, well, that would have been... Oof. That would have been a hell of a ride. I can't imagine what that would have been like. Midwest Weekly Shorts. You can send a track through the Ko-fi link in the description of this live stream. All information is in the link in the description. So, what do we have next? I think we have Dinner Hay next. So we got Dinner Hayes next. So she decided to write such an album. I feel like that's the best way to do stuff like this, you know. You have something that inspires you to say something meaningful that, you know, for bonus points, isn't just about yourself. It's about the world around you. And people will typically resonate, you know. I really appreciate when people can make music that is both about themselves and others in a way that is sincere and authentic. So this is from Dinner Hay. This is Role Model. The Longest Goodbye featuring Lei Fei. That's it, right? Leve, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's how we pronounce her name. But let's do it. Can you hear the hiss of that recording? That's going to be something I talk about at the end. I love it when you can put room sound into a recording in a creative, effective way.
You were a brand new blue jean picket on the front lawn, a reason just to get off the floor. From a friend to a stranger, a simple rearranger. Should I even open that door?
Role Model can sing well.
It was a Sunday morning, hanging by a shoelace. Felt like you were starting a war. Now you're changing and moving. I'll take my ass to Houston, 'cause I don't think you love me anymore.
Great transfer to the brass here.
That's alright.
You were a headache some days, but surely no one's perfect. But loving you's like doing a chore. Instead of blaming and bruising and watching what I'm losing, I don't think I love you anymore.
Damn.
And if this is my goodbye, it's been the longest of my life. I see my shoes have been filled, and still, all I can hope is that he's treating you nice. I see the new man you're holding, the bar is finally closing. I don't know what I'm bugging you for. Between the silence and the mileage, the feelings you were hiding, I don't think you love me anymore.
And I don't think I love you anymore.
But I don't think I'll ever be so sure.
So that was a supremely organic performance there. I'm just personally just trying to fix something really quickly there. Can you see what's more clear? Yeah, that's probably better, so you can see that it's a single. Yeah, unfortunately, that's probably the better way to do it. Yeah, the writing's just a little bit smaller, but then you can also see the text there, so it's fine. So that was the longest goodbye from Role Model featuring Leve. Now, this track appears to be about a man and a woman who had something going on, and then he's gone away, and she's, found someone else, and he's just kind of hoping that he's treating her well, and it's that kind of tale as old as time of, things fall, you kind of look back and what you missed out on, and maybe
Think I love you anymore.
But I don't think I'll ever be so sure.
Exactly. So he doesn't know if he won't love her anymore, and he's basically regretting it. So, it's a feeling, it's a track where you do express a sense of sympathy for the people involved. It's immediately apparent, and this is one of the things I appreciate by the way that it's produced, that it's meant to be like very much an old school recording. You can hear the room sound, the hiss of the microphones with the gain staging and stuff like that. They're not trying to overcomplicate the way it's produced. They kind of want to make it sound like it's a tale from the early 20th century. Like you can kind of imagine like that vintage romanticism there. Two sweethearts with it just not working out. And the way that he communicates, especially with the jazz, like the brass there, the double bass, etc. If we go back to the beginning of the piece, that kind of the piano accompaniment and the steel string guitars, it does remind me of a lot of music from like the 30s, 40s, and 50s. And it's just very almost timeless. And I think it's trying to appeal to maybe those who are familiar with music of that demographic, or there'll be less of them nowadays. But there's also an inherent sweetness and nostalgia for a time where like I wasn't alive there. I don't think that this would have seemed as sort of like organic if it was made with more sort of like contemporary textures like electronic instruments or anything like that. There's just the sound of that where it's just so simplistic and straightforward, but also so warm and soothing because of the way things are done there. That blues is almost excused as part of it. But the way that they interact with each other is so fantastic. Like there is a really decent sense of chemistry between these two within it itself. You know, the way they sing with really sort of like fantastic technique in their head and chest voice and stuff, but they also kind of like go between each other in a way that's organic. It's not the same length of time between takes, you know. Role Model has their sort of version first, and then you get the Leve's response, which makes sense because you're hearing how she feels about that and what her reasoning for it was. And then you hear, oh, we've got a new person in our life. And then, oh no, they can't get back together. And just the story is really well told by them doing things bits and pieces, like going back between each other. And I enjoy the way that that's done. It's just, it's there's a lot of songs that are about things like this, but I feel like in order to make meaningful music, you've got to try and find ways to not make it generic. And I just think, again, if we look through the way that it's played, again, going for a deliberately less sterile approach to the post-production studio, they're having those imperfections which make it seem sort of raw and day in the life, I suppose. Going for that sound, it just kind of encapsulates and transports you into a world of those black and white movies. And it's just very clever. And again, the phrasing of the brass with the sort of like the glow of that there, the way things call and respond, the way that the guitars and the keys sort of feed off each other and provide a lot of the groove within it.
It's been the longest of my life.
And of course, you've got Leve as well, phenomenal vibrato, kind of having her vibrato over the top of what he's saying and what he's talking about, just to be a fantastic additional melodic layer within the mix. It's just, you've got really proficient vocalists who can not only tell a story, but also expand upon that and be a part of the mix and the part of the ether as well. So I think ultimately, the structuring of it, the way the verses go between each other, as well as the actual vocal performances themselves between the people, the way they express themselves and the way the instruments are chosen, with that almost Louisiana-ish kind of like flow to the makeup of the orchestration and the production stylings are what work with this. So I really like this track a lot. Thank you to Dinahay for putting this forward. Role Model, The Longest Goodbye featuring Leve. I don't think that Leve misses. I have not heard a track from Leve where I have been less than impressed by what they've put out. It's really, just really, really golden stuff. But we have track number 3 for today, I suppose. After Dinahay's request, we have this song from Dr. Theo. And what does Dr. Theo have for us? Dr. Theo has Bring Me the Horizon with Parasite Eve. So we shall listen to this too. Fun fact about this song, it is named after the PS1 survival horror game with the same name. It also got help from Mick Gordon, the creator of the modern Doom soundtrack. It actually doesn't surprise me that they were involved. I've listened to the tone of some of their instruments and some of their work, and it has got that kind of feel to it, eh? So thank you for that, Dr. Theo. Let's do it. Let's go. Yeah. What do we got? Parasite Eve. Off of the post-human survival horror track.
I got a fever, don't breathe on me. I'm a believer in nobody won't let me leave cause I've seen something. Hope I don't sneeze, I don't. Really, we just need to feel something. Only pretending to feel something. I know you're dying to run. I wanna turn you around.
Please remain calm. The end has arrived. We cannot save you. Enjoy the ride. This is the moment you've been waiting for. Don't call it a warning. This is.
Can you guys hear that motorcycle? There's this guy next door. And he bought the house. And every weekend, he revs his motorcycle loud enough that I can hear his stupid motorcycle through double glazed windows and with wall insulation. He's just an asshole. He's just an asshole. Yeah. He's just an asshole. And where we're living at the moment, we're living here because we're waiting on buying a house, and we're waiting on some stuff to be done with it so that we can move into it. But I look very much forward to having a word with him once we have found a place. I'm looking forward to having a very stern word with him and telling him how much he can go fuck himself. Because he's just an absolute tool. And so what he does this for about 5 to 10 minutes because he doesn't have the intelligence or the care for anyone else within his life to be able to just do it inside his garage and insulate it so that people can't hear his stupid fucking motorcycle. He does it in the middle of the driveway so that everyone else around him can hear his stupid motorcycle. When we first moved into the place, we had his son, who he was very proud of, play his guitar loud enough out the window that everyone could hear him actually murdering guitar riffs. Like, if a guitar riff was a concept, a tangible thing, something that was alive, it would not be anymore because of how the kid was playing it. And it's just a visceral thing where, just in case you have a motorcycle and you are aware that, if you have a motorcycle, especially one where you've done work on it to where everyone can hear your stupid motorcycle, everyone can hear your stupid motorcycle, and no one wants you to be around. They want you to be off just in a ditch somewhere, unable to move because you've been stung by parasitic wasps. So yeah. I think he's still going. Anyways, I'm going to do this again because I want to give this a fair shot. I apologize for that, but at least you guys know I'm a human being who is not a robot. I love those stabs, man. They're fantastic. And the vocal takes are so cool. They've gone in such an interesting direction over their time doing music, eh?
Really, we just need to feel something. Only pretending to feel something. I know you're dying to run. I wanna turn you around.
Please remain calm. The end has arrived. We cannot save you. Enjoy the ride. This is the moment you've been waiting for. Don't call it a warning. This is a war.
It's a parasite.
Excellent.
When we forget the infection, will we remember the lesson? If the suspense doesn't kill you, something else will.
There's a really interesting synthetic texture to some of those guitar parts there, which just makes it sound more kind of digital and more savage. I'm glad they released a lo-fi album today. That is so cool, man. I mean, when you think about it, when you are at an act of that level, It's great when they are able to feel comfortable doing whatever they like because it shows that they're making music for themselves, you know? But I can definitely hear the Doom. Mick Gordon implements here.
I heard they need better signal. Put chipping pins in the needles. Quarantine all of those secrets in that black hole you call a brain before it's too late. Really, we just wanna scream something. Only pretend to believe something. I know you're baying for blood. I wanna turn you around.
Please remain calm. The end has arrived. We cannot save you. Enjoy the ride.
This is the moment you've been waiting for. We'll call it a warning. This is a war. It's a parasite. Gotta feel it in your stomach 'cause you know that it's coming for you. If you fall into the grief, don't forget what they told you. When we forget the infection, will we remember the lesson? If the suspense doesn't kill you, something else will.
Great triplet fill going into double time. Hi Judith, I'm okay, how are you? Hopefully having a good day.
When we forget the infection, will we remember the lesson? If the suspense doesn't kill you, something else will. You can board up your windows, you can lock up your doors, yeah. But you can't keep washing your hands of this shit anymore. When all the key stops and then all the king's friends don't know their options from their packages. When life is a prison and death is a door, they say to want it. This is a war. This is a war. Oh.
Their dynamic range. Switch in intensity to the size of the stereo field is amazing.
It's a parasite. Gotta feel it in your stomach 'cause you know that it's coming for you. If you fall into the grief, don't forget what they told you. When we forget the infection,
Great triplet, changed the flow in that rhythm section there.
if the suspense doesn't kill you, something else will. It's a parasite. It's a parasite. It's a parasite. We cannot save you. We cannot save you. We cannot save you.
If there's a band that I'd want to see live, it'd probably be Bring Me the Horizon. I haven't seen them live. I've seen a lot of bands live, a lot of bands that I want to see live. And I saw them really early on in my 20s. Just did a whole lot of gigs, but I haven't seen these guys and I really want to. So this was off of the Post-Human Survival Horror album, featuring Kingslayer, which is probably my favorite Bring Me the Horizon Baby Metal mashup. I love that to pieces. They are a great band, Judith. Absolutely. So I think this is talking about, this was like released around COVID time. So I'm wondering if it was talking about like the COVID virus and pathogens and how, you know, technology can't necessarily save us and stuff like that. And how, you know, our leaders don't know their pathogens from their assholes and stuff like that. And they you know, maybe conspiracy theories like better signal with like chips and pins and needles and stuff like that. And that black hole, you call it brain before it's too late, etc. You know, they're just screaming and being frustrated with this, and it's the eve of the parasite. People getting sort of like messed up by the viruses. I think it was timely music, really was. One of the things that was done really well here is the use of the synthetic textures with the lady vocals as well as the main vocal style from the singer in Bring Me the Horizon there. I liked the kind of the vocoderish kind of like AI vocals there, the way they're done, like the computer talking to you about how it can't save you and everything like that. I dig the I like that kind of almost cyberpunkish kind of post apocalyptic feel to it that makes it seem like a more cinematic kind of dramatic experience there. And I think it sort of allows credence or like more of a connection to some of the more sort of electronic elements within the mix with the different synth textures and the way the guitars were produced and everything like that. I think it's really cool. Although I did also hear that the parallel with the pandemic was coincidental and that this was supposed to be fully lore-based. Well, serendipitous, I suppose, you know. So, and also in terms of the actual vocal performance, it was use of fry with the whispered, with the sung parts, and the more sort of like melodic parts there, and just the wide variety of expressions within that on the mic are just fantastic. There was absolutely no filler there. With a wide variety of rhythms, it was a cool change to like the triplets. I dig that. I like the way we sort of flip things, even in AABA, if it's done well, is kind of catchy, you know. So again, I think the vocal was one of the best parts of this, but it was also everything else, like the wide variety of different sort of drum grooves there with the mixture of different like kind of half times and sort of double times, etc. They're very comfortable with the tom, with the triplet fills and stuff like that. The work on the kit's intense. It's a lot more chilled out than their early, like late 2010 stuff back when they were a lot younger and a lot kind of like wilder. But like I think that they've grown up and are doing some really interesting different stuff now. It's still very heavy. I think again, with the mention of like Mick being involved, the creator of the Modern Doom soundtrack, you hear the way there's kind of a fuzziness to those guitars and the way they kind of come in and out and are gated and stuff like that. And they're just very kind of like they stab and pierce the mix. And when they cut out, it's very kind of like, oh, they're gone bam, and they kind of slam back into it. And there's a great use of like bass drops as well as like synth leads on top to add a lot of color and flavor with further layers added as the song sort of continues. But it's also, as a final note, the sound design. Like, at one point, the synths, just before that last chorus, were like kind of petered out on the side, the stereo field, like you were being surrounded by the music and things were kind of pulsating and writhing, and it wasn't something that was done up until that point. So it's kind of like, oh, wow, we're in that kind of like meditative state after all that information, and then boom, Parasite Eve. It really is playing with the expectations of the listener to do something a little bit more sort of original and exciting, and ultimately there is absolutely no filler within this track. You go on a really intriguing journey throughout it. I'm very, very happy that I got the chance to listen to this, because I actually haven't listened to it the whole way through, I don't think. So thank you to Dr. Theo for that. I really appreciate that. It was a really cool song. There's a lot more to say that's done well about this track, but I feel like I'd be here for about an hour discussing it. It's just a really cool timeline that we live in, where we just have access to all this music. And furthermore, a lot of it is really, really, really good. Because back when I was, you know, a teenager, you just had far less access to it. But yeah, thank you to Jacob for this next request. What do we have from Jacob for song number 2 today? I think Dear by Sweet John. Let's do it. I don't know who Sweet John is. A nice, simple indie love song with wonderful math rock vibes and instrumentals. Great. Fantastic. Keen to hear more. Wow, it's very busy immediately. I mean, I like that. And where are the lyrics there? There you go. Which will get the art up there. There we are. Those little plucks on the side are gorgeous, dude.
找你的小聪明，一曲真实的小词语，
It's so dreamy with those vocal harmonies as well.
一曲死掉又小神曲。如果我开始不再想起你了，
遗忘是温柔的，我们都还是会悄悄痊愈的。也许有些残忍，讨厌自己不合时宜的承受着，讨厌我喜欢是你运用的歌。
Sorry to pause. I know that it's annoying when that happens, but I just want to sort of like quickly mention just how utterly fantastic the way the music just kind of flays out to the side there with those keys there, and just how wonderfully intricate they are. All the interesting note choices and the way there's these sort of jazzy fluctuations occur whilst not being overpowering. It's just the music feels so full of life. And back to the synth motif.
当心拉扯得太着急，当心让爱失去弹性。如果我开始
Great extension for that drum fill there. Great work there, man.
遗忘是温柔的，我们都还是会悄悄痊愈的。也许有些残忍，讨厌自己不合时宜的承受着，讨厌我喜欢是你运用的歌，讨厌你最后还是写了亲爱的。
What a plot twist. Interesting vocal chops there.
我想我开始不能想起你了。如果是快乐的，我们都还是会悄悄痊愈的。好怕你舍不得，讨厌自己不合时宜的承受着，讨厌我喜欢是你运用的歌，讨厌你最后还是写了亲爱的。
So that was Dear by Sweet John, right? So that was an absolutely phenomenal tune. Judith says, even though it has lyrics, the structure has a strong impression of an instrumental band. I'd completely agree with that. 100%. I'm not sure what the song is about, as I'm not familiar with the language. You know, what would you say it's about, Jacob? What would you say it's about? So I'm going to talk about what I like about it. I think we're going to talk about the instrumental parts in the moment. Actually, no, we'll just talk about them first. Again, because these are sort of like a few things I just think are really sort of like stellar about the track itself. Because a song like this is practically flawless. There's nothing in here that you could really fault. It's incredibly well performed. So I think first off, it's that the instrumental performances are absolutely stellar across a range of different rhythm and lead guitar parts there, the keys, the drums, the bass, all those different synth pad elements as well are just flawless in their execution. The fundamental and advanced understanding of music theory and composition required to be able to create and compose and perform that adequately and beyond is just amazing. Like, it blows me away that they were not only able to play this, it blows me away that they were able to do this in a way where it made musical sense. To be able to get like the da 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 that part going on the side there of the keys, I think it was. To be able to get that complexity that's almost akin to a solo, but for it to not overwhelm the entirety of the piece is just tremendous. And I think part of that, why that works is because the vocals are so soft and tender and soothing to listen to, even with those fourths that the lady singer was doing at some points. It's a piece where I think the vocals aren't necessarily the lead element. Everything's just trying to be a part of the ether, and I think it succeeds in doing so. There's like every instrument has a moment where there's like drums that have like a kind of an interesting sort of 16 triplet fill, and other parts have offbeat accents and stuff like that on like the open hi-hats and stuff like that. There are core bass lines and chord progressions that are repeated throughout, and there are even repetitions of certain ideas across the instruments, but it never feels overdone or even overcomplicated, despite the complexity, evidently, of the piece. It helps that the hook is so catchy. Yeah, so I think that's a valid comment as well. It's also, I think the final thing I'll say is, outside of stellar studio production, everything so intricately placed and put within the piece from like a post-production perspective, in terms of the leveling, the EQing, and everything like that. And outside of the performance and the quality and the choices there, it's that they made the vocals catchy, and any chord progressions or decisions with the bass lines or concepts were done in a way where it was complicated but very, very palatable and easy to listen to. So ultimately, I think a lot of what makes this successful is that it's a really complex arrangement and sort of like just a really, really well thought out track that balances, again, that inherent catchiness to it and that sweetness of the vocal performance with all the other incredibly meticulous stuff going on within the backing and arrangement and sort of subleads. And it also has moments where it's not just full bore the entire time. Like, structurally, some parts are very sort of like full of everything kind of going, and other parts you just have chords with vocal harmonies just kind of carrying across. There's so much range structurally, and in terms of the dynamics, there's so much to appreciate. It really, a lot of these tracks that have come through today are just really impressive in their execution. And yeah, thank you to Jacob for putting that track forward. Have we listened to Sweet John before? I don't know if we have, but I wouldn't mind checking out more at a later date. I think they seem like a really cool act, and I think that if they do any sort of like adjustments or variations for time signatures in a way that is meaningful and makes sense, any polyrhythms or polymeters that were intrinsic to that were completely functional and elevated it. So that was really cool. I think the next track we've got, though, is from Judith. So let's do it, Judith. What do we got? Really cool song, man. Gareth T, Singing With My Back. Let's do it, yeah? Let's listen to some Gareth T, eh? Thank you for providing the track translation as well. Usually I have to, not that I mind doing this, but I have to go into DeepL and get it to sort of help me out. So when you guys send through the translations for the titles specifically, it's really cool. Oh, it is back. Singing With My Back. Oh, he's naked.
住，我怎麼敢去唱情歌？然而，我想揀今日來流露我凄楚的緣的人，請你扮傻，但唱不全像正，其實老人並不傻，都猜中我為你捱盡折磨。眼淚若嫌多，用背脊唱情歌，難道從後腦可以望穿我心裏痛什麼？正面像全裸，這醜的步驟別來篤破，願這個悲悼一轉背人間倒忘掉我。
Beautiful adjustment to that right hand there. It matches how vulnerable he sounds with the style of delicate vocals he's doing. Like, it's really well balanced. And strings, a little bit at a time. Great use of head voice or falsetto there, man. I mean, that was a really beautiful song. It took a while to get to the it took a while to build up to it, but I don't necessarily mind that. I think that if the journey that you go on is, you know, if the journey that you go on is worthwhile, then it's exciting and the development is steady and interesting and you don't get lost halfway. It's effective. No, it had to be that one, yeah. I know, like, you can see slightly half of this is missing a little bit. Short summary of the lyrics. Gareth wrote the song to express his affection towards his ex. Our lyrics "sing with his back" implies that he doesn't want to face the crowd when he's singing about his true feelings. That makes sense, actually, honestly. That's an interesting statement, because I feel like as a musician, you kind of have to talk about your feelings. I mean, like, you can make music based on sort of like rational, logical stuff outside of that, you know. But I feel like a lot of the best music comes from showing your pain and putting that into form, providing it's done in a way where it's I suppose it's palatable depending on the audience's style you're going at. But you know, usually if you can get it to match the music, it's good. Which is often why some of the really heavy stuff has the heavy vocals, or they deliberately contrast to just make it more sort of exciting or kind of curious or uncertain, or vice versa, you know. Like the lady vocalists who did like the death growls and the pop music and stuff like that. you know. Which was exciting to me, but not a thing that everyone was into, I think, from what I remember in the competition. But so this was, again, it was Gareth T with Sing With My Back. I think one thing that this track does well with the understanding that, you know, it's about sort of expressing our feelings to our ex and kind of trying to eventually get to a point where we can release it, is that, you know, the toilet paper, him going through that breakup, is him quietly going through what he needs to get to a point to where he can discuss it. I think most people will be able to relate to the fact that immediately after a breakup, you're not always prepared to discuss it. And I think that he is quiet at the beginning because he is quiet with his output on that front. And you get this eventual kind of like development, and he just gets more and more comfortable, I think, with expressing it until he just bursts out. And he's just he's more intense at the end of it, you know. And it's almost like the music is going up with him. And I think that's a smart move. So he displays really competent vocal technique throughout, but he uses a bit more of his range, like his upper and head, chest voice and falsetto when he goes up there, I think, to kind of make himself remain relevant amongst all the kind of other stuff going on with the instrumental layers there, and to provide a bit more sort of development melodically there. But yeah, I think it works because he gets to a point where he can finally be open and honest with the feelings and face the crowd. And it also just makes the track more interesting, having sort of change and growth through it. So, like at the start, he's so delicate there. And that shows skill as a performer and as a songwriter to understand when it's important to do that. I think if you go full bore at the start, it's just a little bit too much. And it's knowing that nuance that makes people great. It's knowing how to put that into music. And you've kind of got the kind of guitar at the start playing these triads, which are relatively inoffensive and very gentle alongside Gareth there, but that kind of show a little bit of kind of like balance there with the major and minor triads. Yeah, so delicate and naked to layered and clothed. Exactly. So the audio-visual experience there, I don't usually comment on the music videos in these reviews, but the audio-visual experience there is very strong because it's basically having a similar journey to his vocals and the music, with the video showing him getting there as well. You got these finger-picked parts, and then as you go through it, there is the piano on the right side that comes in, and that's more decorating the frequency spectrum with the higher notes, the stars in the sky, everything like that. And then you have the strings and everything like that. And then you have the drums come in, and it's very sort of ballad-esque, you know. And it's just this Bildungsromanesque kind of adventure you go through. And honestly, it's incredibly charming. And you see him get to a point with his archery there where he's kind of firing off shots to see if one fits. And eventually he gets to a point where he does nail the shot and he just comes out of his shell and boom, he's there. And you got the entire band bursting out at that point. So I think, without repeating myself, it's the actual quality of the vocal performance that works really well here. In addition, I mean, like Jacob said, his voice sounds a little bit on the thin side. I would honestly say I'd say that's 50-50, maybe his voice not using as much of his chest voice. I'm not saying he's singing badly. That's not what I'm saying at all. It's more that just his range is not necessarily he's using his chest voice in that. Maybe he prefers the style which is more gentle, where he's not having as much kind of grounding there. But I also think in terms of the actual studio production, they aren't trying to have too harsh a tone to his voice. They're trying to make it sound pretty. And you might not necessarily have as much of a full tone when you're trying to have a pretty vocal performance. I think, you know, but that's also, guys could be off the mark with that, and it could be these headphones that are taking out a bit of the oomph, I'm not sure. But either way, I'm just thankful that he does have a bit more on the tank when it goes into the upper range, because I feel like if he had been consistent throughout, yeah, I think the R&B side works here. I don't think if it's done vocal fry or anything like that, it would have necessarily assisted us here. It's simply, I kind of have to respect the fact that he didn't try and make his vocals bigger than they were. Like I'd say it's 50-50 production and his just actual instrument, his actual vocal cords, himself as a human being. Not everyone is able to have the big vocals, you know. You can work on that and develop, but everyone's built different, you know. Still, I do appreciate the performance overall. I think the audiovisual experience is strong. And I just think it's great that he was able to get out of his shell. And I think it was a very kind of classy way to discuss this as a final note. It can be really trashy to talk about your exes. It can be really trashy to talk about exes, but I think it's done the way here, which is quite classy. So thank you to Judith for sending through this track from Gareth T, titled Sing With My Back. Really interesting journey with that one. What do we have next? We have a few. We have Judith with another track. Thank you as well for that. What else do we have from Judith today? Is it another Gareth T track? No, this is a very old video I dig back up recently, played by a group called Doga Shinshal, Play for Nature, collaboration of various vocalists and musicians. Super lovely piece. Thank you, Judith. Let's check this out. Let's do it. Go here. And get that link up on the screen. Go for gold. I would genuinely be glad to hear more. I'm not gonna... It'd be cool to hear him in different styles. It'd be cool to hear him doing different styles. Is most of his music like this? Is he very gentle a lot of the time? Because it's okay if he's gentle a lot of the time. Is it 10 minutes long? Is there like a timestamp where it comes in? Just checking. Thank you though, Judith. I appreciate this. Just to confirm that this would still be to the 5-minute point. Okay, let's see if we can kind of go into it. There we go. Yeah. Here we go. Eh. Okay. Let's do it. Gessi Baglari. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm not gonna butcher that, but let's do it. Phenomenal accordion playing. Sounds beautiful.
Gezi bağlarında dolanıyorum.
Yitirdim yarimi.
Aman aranıyorum. Yitirdim yarimi.
Aman aranıyorum. Bir tek selamına güveniyorum.
Ooh. That's some spice right there.
Üç top gülüm var.
Hey Allah'tan korkmaz.
Sana bana ölüm var.
Hey Allah'tan korkmaz.
Sana bana ölüm var. Ölüm varsa bu dünyada zulüm var.
Atma garibana, beni dağlar ardına.
Kimseler yanmasın, anam yansın derdime.
Ooh. Just phenomenal performances across some of these instruments, eh?
Çemberinde gül oya, gülmedim doya doya. Çemberimde gül oya, gülmedim doya doya. Dertlere karıyorum, günleri saya saya.
Al beni kıyamam seni. Dertlere karıyorum günleri saya saya.
Al beni kıyamam seni.
Is it a 9/8 at some parts? Time signature wise?
Avro dibi beklerim, vay benim emeklerim.
Avlu dibi beklerim, vay benim emeklerim.
So yeah, you can make music a 9/8 and make it sound awesome. That kid, I'm sorry, I have to go back there. I think we're probably at the 5-minute mark anyways, but it's just gone so quickly, hasn't it? It's just gone so quickly. I just want to hear that last little bit with the kiddo again.
Al beni kıyamam seni.
So what do we think this track is about? Because I don't have the whole of it. Like, Judith, are you able to give like an overall kind of like a... Because I talk about like not wanting to see us, people to see us in pain, and our mother sort of like crying for us. And I talk about death and in the mountains and not having the heart to hurt people and stuff like that. I'm just not sure how to interpret it. There's a lot going on there, and I feel like I'd probably need the last 3 minutes for context. But whilst I wait, whilst I wait for a summary, I suppose, if possible, please. It's like a Tribe People version of a long song. Well, I think it's absolutely beautiful. I just want to sort of comment on clearly one of the things working so well within this track across the time it's made is the variety of different instruments included. So many types of various percussive elements there, stringed elements there. There's flutes and sort of basses and electric guitars and solos and sort of classical nylon guitars, and lots of other and keys and accordions and stuff like that. And I think that part of what works so well is that the specific groove there and the variations between the time signatures and elements there facilitate that amount of both sort of vocal coloration within it, in addition to just a general, just the flexibility with the textures and timbres included. I love that they could just go between different instruments so cleanly, and that all the performers involved had their own flavor on the existing progressions or bass lines and just navigated them so effortlessly, but also they simultaneously never overstayed their welcome. And there was just so much clear love and a sense of camaraderie between the people involved in this because of how well they both stayed in their own lane while supported when required. They knew to have their solo and come off. They knew when to be supportive. Is a really incredible sort of awareness and chemistry between all of the people involved within this composition and performance, and the fact they had to actually play and record it and not sort of fix it in post, especially with those acoustic drums and stuff like that, is fantastic. And they're complicated sort of solos with some interesting chromatics and fun sort of like articulations there, and each has its own sort of character and unique sort of like identity, and I adore it. I'm sure that anyone who listens through this is probably going to find certain things their favorite. Are the captions done? Cool. So I'll try that again. I'm sure that people will listen through this and they'll find their own specific few parts that they really appreciate. And I think that's part of the flavor of this. Is it is a global effort with people from all around the world there. I think it's also the way that while we have a longer song, there are so many different singers that sing it in a similar kind of style. They do add their own sort of flavors and directions on top of it, but there's this kind of interesting way that they phrase and express themselves. And it gives a traditional kind of tribal kind of sort of experience with it, without wanting to sort of be too generalized about it. But it kind of grounds it and makes it a bit more sort of mystical sounding at the same time. But it's just also having so many people sing in a way which kind of continues the story with a similar level of expression and sort of like awareness of how to approach those. It's like everyone who is involved in sort of jamming along to it, not just on an instrumental perspective on a vocal part, knew how to sort of tap into the same tale and make it meaningful. Like they had their idea, again, similar comments, but it's being able to have that consistency, even with the little girl at the end. Yeah, exactly, David, exactly. That's it summarized. A lot of rapid shifting between vocalists, all sing well. That's basically what I'm trying to sort of communicate. Absolutely. And they do it in a different time signature that is incredibly palatable. It's just fantastic to hear 9/8 used like that. Yeah, I think when you're a singer, you can either communicate and try and be a bit more sort of like straightforward with your approach, or you can try and have the intensity come from the loudness or the techniques used there, or the range and how delicate or kind of strong you are with it. Or you can go for like a styling that they do where like the whole body is behind it, and it's very kind of like it's like, it's a sense of woe that you get from it because some of the tales go. It's very kind of it's fascinating. I want to learn more about it, sort of talk more about it. But final note, it's just the way that despite all these different singers and all these different instrumentalists, that they all manage to have their takes video recorded well as recorded and mixed in neatly. It sounds like a really high quality recording. People were very careful with their takes. The tones were fantastic. You can see a lot of people in nature around trees and just sort of vibing in the woods. It's really cool. So ultimately, I think stuff was done really neatly all the way around. It is a very unique collaboration. I haven't really listened through a track like this before, but I love the approach and the idea behind it. And hopefully they do more in future, and I wish them all the best. A lot of really really talented people involved, and it's great to hear more. So thank you to Judith for putting this track through. Doga Ishin Carl, Play for Nature from the, with lots of people involved. Very, very cool. So yeah, that was a really neat track. And then I think, if I'm not mistaken, we have a track from Chromino next. And thank you, Judith. I do like this kind of music. I'm always a fan of when people are able to play musicians well and do so in a way that is tasteful. If not directly relevant to the subject matter or the lyrics, it's tasteful. I think it's so important to have that there. You can do so much with an instrument, but if it's superfluous, people will lose attention. Something being superfluous is opinion-based, of course. It's just finding that nuance, I suppose. But this is a track from Chromino. Thank you to Chromino for sending this through. This is from Nagase Yuka, titled Skeleton. Let's do it. Let's go. What do we got? Oh my lord, this is beautiful, dude. I'm sorry. Dun 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 dun. What is that? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and is that 7? Is that 7/4? It's not. There's an extra one, isn't there? Oh, they've been very playful with time signatures. You hear that guitar on the right? That guitar on the right was ridiculous. I know I'm pausing a lot, but there's some really stunning stuff going on. Is that keys, actually? It might be keys. It is. I feel like that, like, connected some neurons in there. You know, that. What do you even say about this song? Skeleton by Nagase Yuka. What do you say about it? What do you say about the song? It is tight, Judith. Absolutely. Like, what do you... I want to say two things. One, there are Japanese musicians. I assume this is Japanese. Phenomenal chromino. Blown away by it. There are some Japanese musicians that get sent through, and they're just completely mind-blowing with the way they put stuff forward. There are incredibly, talented and mind-blowing musicians around the world, but a lot of the stuff I hear outside of the sort of mainstream sort of pop and kind of like stuff I hear from Japan is just completely like it blows my mind. It just wows me. That felt like an experience. So I think, I'm not sure what the track is about outside of skeletons. That feels like the most fleshed out skeleton I've ever heard in a track. It was an adventure. It was a journey. So, one thing that you kind of have to be careful of when you write music is you have to be really careful about creating a song that is purely vocal oriented. And the reason for that is if someone doesn't like the story you're telling, they're not going to connect. Here, I don't know what the story's about. I just know that the lady singer with the male backing vocals, if I'm not mistaken, certain parts just sounds really pretty. Like her voice is so gentle and so cute and so charming and easy to listen to. And it kind of reminds me of a similar approach for the second track that Jacob sent through from Sweet John, titled Dare. So clearly very comfortable with their vocal technique across their head and chest, voice, etc. Very palatable and pleasing, and they navigated an extremely complicated sort of song just very, very neatly. And so the vocals are done. But then you have everything else. So we talk about not just the instruments, but just the complete absurdity of everything going on through it. Guessing the term skeleton is implying true self. So maybe the true self is being expressed in this, and that part where the synth goes up at the end is like self-actualization or something like that. I am really stoked with how well they've managed to put incredibly just hideously complicated instrumental parts within this in a way which is very, very, very palatable. It's a track where you listen to some of those bass takes, like kind of they're sweep picking, going up and down the strings. They're going like that on a bass guitar in the middle of a track. You very rarely get any sort of main bass elements outside of root notes in a lot of tracks or octaves. But here, they've got a full-on sort of bass fill in there. The keys going around those chromatics, like roaring around the sides on the right hand. The guitar parts. The use of these really fascinating time signatures and splitting of these different bars and with different phrases with different asymmetrical time signatures. And it's just such a cute sounding song with the way that the vocals are done, with the softness and the cutesy nature of it. But the music belies that. It's so full bore for most of it. Yeah, it is very much like that song from Dear John, David. I absolutely agree. Sounds like they were keeping a catchy vocal melody and backing it with everything they could think of. They threw the entire kitchen sink with it, and it worked. And like you listen to it, like da 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 da, and they've got like a really fundamental understanding of like the major and minor keys. The way everything sort of harmonizes and moves forwards is fantastic there. There's a perkiness and a bounciness with the swing groove on the kit. They're working between those kicks, snares, and sort of cymbal patterns there with really adequate triplet fills across the board. But then I go back and I think, holy crap, look at that. Listen to those Strymon-esque reverbs on those guitar takes. listen to the way the synths kind of pulsate around it, and you're this kind of like this dreamscape, this zone there, and you're just kind of lulled into a false sense of security before everything comes back. And then you've just got all this kind of crazy stuff going around that, like near the end of the track, you have instruments starting to come and sort of pulsate and ride and maybe argue with each other a little bit. But it never becomes too much. It's almost like the synth rising at the end is everything kind of coming full bore. Like you've had all these different things smash against each other. You've had all these ideas smash against each other, and then suddenly you've got connection. And then you've got like these bits of noise and kind of like dissonance there amongst the theme, things moving forward as normal. And then suddenly it's so clever. It's where, again, as I mentioned at the start, they have this kind of ether effect where it's not just that we're telling a story and it's pleasant to listen to and it's performed well. It's transcendent because they not only can play these instruments to a near virtuosic degree, they can also get all these kind of crazy, intriguing elements there and play with the dynamic ranges and sub-layering of stuff, especially with production, like the studio production, with the mixing and the leveling and the stereo field and where things are spaced and move between each other and asymmetrical panning of different elements. And just the way that things float, and then there's pulse, and then just they rise at the end with a ceiling you weren't expecting because it's pushed against the limiter. It's mind-blowing, man. It's an incredible album. This is awesome, dude. And they've got this kind of moogish, kind of square kind of synth there bouncing around and creating a very sort of 90s video game sort of aesthetic to it. And it's like this interesting kind of pulse of some of the instruments being in time with the vocals as well to perform a further sense of groove and sort of kind of like, oh man. Some songs I listen to, I don't know how to talk about it and do it justice. It's just, you just have to sort of show, I think you have to show appreciation for people who put this much love into their tunes. I just don't know how, it's literally finding those micro niches of furthering music, furthering it over time, becoming more progressive, experimenting with different ideas and things, infusing different elements together, micro subgenres and everything like that. I'm blown away by that. That's a phenomenal song. I don't know what else to say to do it justice. I feel like I've said a lot about it that I think is valid, but I'd need a few more listens to really be able to adequately do an overall analysis of it. And we'd be here for another half an hour. And that is testament and a compliment to them for having that much depth within their music, and also for me to want to listen through it multiple times. So thank you to Chromino for putting through this track from Nagase Yuka titled Skeleton. Amazing. Just great vibes. Great vibes. And so with that, the queue is closed. Unfortunately, the queue is closed for today. But not unfortunately, because we listened to some amazing music today. Who did we hear music from today? Jacob Gerd, Dunahay, Dr. Theo, as well as Judith with 2 tracks, Dogishin Carl and Garth T, and also Jacob sitting through tracks from Sweet John and PJ Harvey. And then we had Chromino. So just before we finish up for today, just a quick thing. Thank you for watching this live stream of us, checking out these tracks. Oh, you did? Oh, no, you're cool. No, we can do it. It's cool. No, it's okay. No, we're cool. We'll, hang on. Though we'll do yours. Just came through. So, just so everyone's clear, I have just received Averted Vision's request. Like, it's literally come through here. So you guys can see it. So I'll show this cautiously on the screen so you guys know that I'm not joking. So you can see there that I had closed. Oh no, the queue was open. I swear I closed it. I swear I closed it. But you can see there that this is like the last one that I have to do. So just so you know, I had closed the queue, but what Ko-fi sometimes does is that it will like close it and then someone is halfway through putting commission through, so it'll allow them to do it. But David, I'm happy to do yours next week if you want. We only really have time for one more request anyways. Because I've got to go get some food in a moment. But yeah, we're going to do this last song from Averted Vision, and then I think we'll be sorted for today. So let's do this one from Averted Vision. What does Averted Vision have for us today? Ko-fi's a rascal, man. Ko-fi's a rascal. Okay, so what do we have? This is okay. So just to confirm, I know this is a 6-minute 52 track. I'll only be able to listen to 5 minutes of it. But yeah, we will definitely listen through this, and then I think we'll be finishing up for today. But I appreciate that. So Averted Vision. Thanks for your request. And then put that here, and then we've got Wardruna and a rover with Helvingen. Yeah, so the queue is still closed though. So we're unable to put through more requests today, just because I've got to go after this. But let's do it. Bonus track, I suppose. Thank you, Averted Vision, for this. I'm gonna have to watch it because I've got the lyrics, but I'll definitely be feeling it. His hit voice is fantastic. Interesting transition to triplets. What kind of instrument is that? It sounds like brass, but it's just, I don't know if that's actually brass or not, or a horn of some kind. It's definitely a horn, I suppose. A horn, should I say. Oh, never mind. Plays a really interesting unison note. That little bit of vocal fry at the end was fantastic. I like that bit of oomph. I'm glad I listened to that. I'm glad we listened through this. Thank you to Averted Vision for this request of this track from an actor named Wardruna and Aurora titled Halvelgen with English lyrics. Wardruna's Halvegen, should I say, is a song about death, remembrance, and a journey into the afterlife, drawing from ancient Nordic traditions. The song explores the concept of death as a passage, guided by the living through song or remembrance. Yeah, no, I can definitely get that from the lyrics there. We talk about following in with music and stuff like that, and I think that's a beautiful thing. It's a wonderful song. Part of what works is the clear competency of the people on the microphone. I think at the beginning, it's just this lady here, and her voice is it's gorgeous, and it's a very kind of like isolated layer within what you've got there, and it's very sort of like tense at the beginning. You're kind of not sure what's going to happen next, but as soon as the guy comes in, and he comes in his lower range, it's just so full because they're stacking on top of each other. And then when the rest of the vocalists come in and he goes into his upper range, it just stacks further, and you just have more and more power and force behind it. Like the calls and the music are getting louder as a person moves on or journeys through it, which I think is just by that alone a fantastic sort of like symbolism there. But then as he goes further and kind of gets into a bit more kind of oomph and like bit of vocal fry and stuff like that, it does really just become this really impressive overall harmony. The leads, the vocals being the main focal point throughout, as everything else is incredibly supportive there, with the message being the main point to sort of pay attention to. It's just incredibly well developed there, and it just is it's very kind of like I'm thankful that everyone can sing really well and that they are able to make little changes as they go through, with some things being more constant than the others to build it up. So I think another thing that works really well here is how those instrumental backings kind of like mirror that. A thing that instantly comes to mind is the horn that we were talking about. How it's like more of a unison note through the piece, something that kind of anchors the piece in a specific note or root or basis where everything else just kind of like resonates around it. And it's not there all the time. It comes in around the halfway point, but when it does, it's very poignant. And it is almost like you're sending someone off, kind of like in a lot of different funeral rites from like a lot of different cultures. And it's just absolutely tremendous, which is why I kind of thought it was initially a brass instrument before I took sight of it there. But to be able to have like this kind of like low cello or some string instrument in that low end with that kind of bass note there and that thud of the person walking is just incredibly tense. To begin like that, it's not a happy start. People are kind of very sort of like cautious and like you just there's that tension there. And as you grow with those mids and high upper layers being expanded upon, it becomes a bit more sort of grandiose. And that's in part due to the introduction of those kind of triplets that get put on with like some shakers or something like that as we go. And there's just further development of the percussion without it ever becoming too much. It's just really well fleshed out, but there are subtle adjustments, kind of like with the vocals, that you're kind of mesmerized by how it sounds as you go further into the depths. And it's just knowing how to use those individual instruments to not do too much with them, but just to fulfill a specific function, to tell a story, and to be part of a tapestry that is incredibly impressive within this piece. Especially considering that it is like 6 minutes 50. I'm trying to... And it's just him alone at the end. I just wanted to confirm how it built. So for that massive build, just go out to be the guy by himself is just wonderful. It's just incredibly well structured, and it's an interesting bell curve with a sudden drop at the end, which I think kind of mirrors maybe the experience people are having. And it's just wonderfully articulate. I think the final thing I'd say is done really well with this is the actual production of it. There's like a room sound to it, but just everyone is playing their parts really effectively and organically. There's no post-production kind of magic here. It's just simply people knowing what they're doing and creating this environment and atmosphere, which I think it's just very well connected. And it's raw, but it's regal. And you sit there going alongside the adventure, the dynamic range, the build of that over time is it kind of catches you by surprise, and at the end you're aware of how empty things sound, but it's a journey that was worth going on. So yeah, incredible track. I feel like you get the whole context with the 7 minutes through it, so maybe I'll have a listen to that on my own just to get the whole entire thing. But Averted Vision, thank you for sending that track through. I really appreciate being able to have a listen through that. It was good to hear it. So I think that is now all of the commissions. So that is us. I just want to sort of, this is the conclusion now. After that wonderful song from Woodrunner and Aurora, Helvigen. We have had tracks today from Jacob Good, as well as Dinnerhay, Dr. Theo, and Judith, and Cromino, and now Averted Vision. Thank you, all of you, for putting through tracks for us to check out today. I really appreciate being able to hear more music. It's good to have heard some really incredible stuff today. My favorite track off of these was probably Skeleton, to be honest, although I do also like Parasite Eve quite a lot. So it's a toss-up between those two. Maybe if you can let me know what your favorite track was in the comments or in chat, but either way, hopefully you all have a fantastic weekend. Thanks also to those of you who just came to hang out and talk. Hi. Sorry. Oh, hang on. Did I get yours yet? Hang on. Let me just have a think. 9 new donations. Oh, you didn't go through the commissions. Okay. All right, so let's talk about that. I will do your track, David. I will. We need to go through commissions. Okay? The once-off thing doesn't show in the commissions tab. And that means that I don't see your order when it comes through. There is a separate thing on the page where it shows it, like, but it's not, I didn't know that it had come through. I didn't get told about that. So we can do it, but we can do it, and I apologize, but next time it would be good to go through the commissions link. It's the link in the description. That way I'll see your request when it comes through. Because I just didn't know. It didn't tell me. So yeah, we'll do that now. Nah, I would like to do it now. I'd like to do it now because I feel like it's unfair. I'm gonna forget. I would like to do it now. It's totally fine. We'll do it now because you put it through an hour ago, and I want to make sure you get your stuff done. That way, everyone's had their requests, and everything's good. But yeah, definitely next time for the commissions. If we do that, so let's do it. There we go. Okay, let's do it. So we've got one more track for today. It is from David. And it is David, Shepherd's Reign. Cool. And just to be clear, I do want to do this request. I do. It's just, yeah. Cool, let's do it. So we've got one more track. It's from David. And this is titled Shepherd's Reign. It's okay. So in the description for the live stream, and I can check this myself. I'm going to do it right now, simply so that I know it works. So if I go to the live stream at the moment and I see that, I go to the live stream and yeah, so it's maybe I had the queue closed when you put it through. I'm not sure. But either way, it's fine. Just usually it'll take you to a separate commissions link and you'll be able to put it in there. If you don't see the commissions link, it's likely that the queue is closed. So you see this little window up here. Basically, if this says queue is closed, it means that we can't take more submissions. Sometimes they're also not. Sometimes they take a while to get into doing the queue, so it's not open straight away. But yeah, band from New Zealand, they sing in Polynesian. Let's do it. Let's go. Let's do it. Fantastic use of percussion here, man. That's awesome. Alamai. Fantastic build with the guitars, man. And they can play. Great vocal fry. A fantastic transition back to that kind of 60 triplet feel they have there. It's just great to know to come back to that original motif there to kind of redo the loop. I mean, phenomenal playing there. There's a really interesting feel to the synth pads. There's quite a bit of mid-range in them. And back to that motif there. Excellent. So that was Shepherd's Reign with LMI. I'm not familiar with the language, so I'm not entirely sure what it's about, though if I understand correctly, judging from the boat, the canoe that they have there, this could be about the way that they traveled around the place. There's the band, there's a young band, a band that sings in Maori, a middle band that sings in Maori in New Zealand, and there's another one that sings, and now Shepherd's Reign in Polynesian, in Samoan, should I say. And I think it's one of the things I appreciate about it is that you've got a band that is kind of aware that there is an opening for that. There's probably a lot of metalheads who would maybe, at least potential to be metalheads, right? But you've got that connection by the language and by sort of talking about their history and like their stories and everything like that and the way they're told there. And it's just such cool subject matter. Even as someone who doesn't know a lot about it, I look at the story and the overall audiovisual experience, and I'm kind of fascinated by who that woman was and how they're calling out, That's alien weaponry. Thank you, David. Yeah, David, that's who I was talking about. Alien weaponry are they are the people who sing in Maori in a lot of their songs. And I think it's really cool. It just makes sense, really. Lots of interesting stories from the people within these cultures that they are putting across, and it's dope. And I just like the fact that we're incorporating the styles of music. It just makes sense. So the story, the audiovisual experience is really competently done. So I think that that's just a great idea. I think that also the focus at the start of the track, with the more sort of traditional percussion there and the little tippy taps and the more sort of bass-oriented stuff is just really fascinating. The song calls on ancestors for strength. Well, there we go. That makes sense. I suppose to be fair, the journeys that they used to take they that was a big part of it. Calling on the ancestors for support and strength and stuff like that. It's a really important part of their culture, as I understand it. I don't know a lot about it, but I also can understand why that might be the case. And I just think it's a beautiful thing to write a song about, but it's also the power and the force behind it of metal can sort of simulate the sort of passion they have. I just think the traditional percussion they had initially with the interesting sort of 16th and sort of triplet note patterns there, and like the reverb tails that they have on those there to kind of make them seem sort of ghostly and kind of wistful and stuff like that is a really kind of cool idea as well. So the interesting sound design on those sort of more sort of like traditional percussive elements. But then when they get into the entire band, they're just incredibly tight with their instrumental performance across the different guitar, bass, and drum patterns there, with a vocalist who clearly knows what they're doing, very comfortable within the octaves that they're sort of pulling across. It's a very conservative song in terms of its structure, but I think that part of what works is that they find a way to make those chorus sections inherently catchy, so that even if you might not necessarily be as familiar with the style of music, or maybe not as comfortable with the heaviness of how powerful it sounds, you can kind of get behind it and sing along to it, and it's just sort of effervescent in that regard. It's well thought out. It's a very sort of like in terms of structurally, just having, I think it was special because of the way it began with those sort of earlier elements there, and kind of leading into the tail that we elaborate on with the vocals as well. I think having that guitar solo at the end there, the way it was phrased with a mixture of different approaches to the soloing through like the shred and the tapping to the unison bends and stuff like that was really neat. But there's a heavy sort of emphasis on the rhythm elements with the rhythm guitars, like the power chord elements there, and the tremolo parts and the power chords, with the double kicks being absolutely fierce, incredibly tight on the double kicks there across it, and very proficient with those breakdowns. But I think the final thing I'll note is it's an interesting kind of ballsy decision to have those pads the way they are, because as an audio engineer, as someone who like has been listening to music for a bit, there is what I would call a mid-range resonance to the way that those pads are implemented within that chorus section. But what I will say is that I think it's incredibly tasteful. It has this sort of dreamy aesthetic to it that really does make it seem like you're going through the journey that they're doing, almost like they're hearkening back to a point in time where they needed to have a higher power to kind of call out to their ancestors. It's a really special sounding instrument there that usually I'd be like, no, it's kind of overwhelming other elements of the mix. Like parts of the song sounded less heavy without that pad in it, but they were clearly cognizant of how that affected it to have a deliberate separation of those, of how things were experienced there. And so I think it was a deliberate decision to have that resonance, and it's a rare case of where I think it was the right move to have that happen there. You usually want to have space within the frequency spectrum for certain elements to fit together. Having a resonance and a low and a little bit more of the low mids or something elevated isn't always good, but it does well here. It's very well thought out, and it does make it seem sort of like it's mystical and beautiful. And it evens out a lot of the kind of more kind of intense textures from like the guitar parts and everything like that. And no, just incredibly well done. So thank you actually to David too for putting that, David II, for putting that track through. I have not heard Shepherd's Reign before, but I'm glad I have. Awesome. Lots of really cool music. New Zealand band. Fellow Kiwis, man. It's awesome. We've got a lot of talented musicians here, as well as it's good vibes. So it's actually like a really nice, pleasant note to finish on. So I think that now I'm going to write, thank you so much. This is the public message on Ko-fi. So much. This was an awesome song. This track from Shepherd's Reign, titled Ala Mai. So thank you to, going through the list again, Jacob Good, Dunerhay, Dr. Theo, as well as Judith and Cromino and Adverted Vision and David too, for putting through the tracks that you have today. It has been a genuine pleasure to listen through those. And thanks to all of you who have also hung around and kind of listened to the song music alongside it. It's been good to chat to people. We will be having another live stream tomorrow. It will probably be decidedly less heavy and progressive than some of the music we've had today, as we will be listening through some Britney Spears' top 5 tracks on Spotify. So if you want to listen to some Britney Spears, feel free to come along. If you don't want to listen to Britney Spears, that's okay. You can come back next week and we can listen to some more music. I think we've also got BTS next weekend, which should be interesting. But, thank you for coming along to this live stream. Stay cool and stay safe. And please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you all in the next SB live streams. Have a great weekend if I don't see you tomorrow. Spiderhands out. Oh, and the live stream schedule is on the Discord if you're ever curious about it. But yeah, stay cool, shredders. Spiderhands out. 3, 2,